Hi folks, my name is Mons from cEDH Television, bringing you guys a deck tech video about Sidisi Brood Tyrant Sultai. But we're gonna do a little bit of a tweak here compared to what we normally do. I'm gonna do a budget deck tech video on her, but also the game plan that I'm gonna be showcasing is a little bit more beginner friendly. So I guess this is a deck that is more of a good entry point into cEDH. Because of that, it's really important to mention that this is not a top tier deck. This is something far below the other mean and evil genius decks that run around in the top tier level. I don't really know the real power level of this deck, something semi-competitive or maybe even below that. But this is definitely a deck that could win if the stars align against real competitive decks, if you're lucky. Just like how I mentioned before, this is a good entry deck into the cEDH format on a budget, and then later on you could upgrade this deck when your budget increases and your knowledge about the cEDH metagame also increases. The most common strategy with Sidis is something with Hermit Druid and Necrotic Ooze. If your deck doesn't contain a single basic land whatsoever, when you activate Hermit Druid, you will put your entire deck into your graveyard, and then with a card like Dread Return, you can reanimate, let's say, Necrotic Ooze. Then you have a bunch of creature cards in your graveyard that is gonna win the game for you in some way with activations that Necrotic Ooze could copy. Now, the big problem with this combo and strategy and game plan is that it's not really on a budget and it's not that simple. So you can't have any basic lands. That means you have to purchase a lot of non-basic land to make that combo functional. Also, I want to have something more simplex. So I'm gonna still be playing the Dread Return, because Dread Return is actually quite a good card inside Sidisi, and I'm gonna go reanimate overrun. I'm gonna go for craterhoof behemoth. The game plan is so simplex. Basically, cast Sidisi, attack with Sidisi, fill your graveyard with her ability, and maybe some other cards inside the deck as well. And then eventually you will put this big beast into your graveyard and this into your graveyard. You cast this using the flashback cost, sacrificing, let's say, 3 zombie tokens. Then you reanimate Craterhoof Behemoth. If you have reached a critical mass of zombies and some other creatures you have casted, then you're gonna get plus X equal to a lot. And then trample, and then simply attack and overrun and win. You could say that it's not really a one card combo, it's a 2 card combo. You have to have both inside your graveyard, but you could actually draw into this and cast it for your mana if the game has gotten that long. Hold on, what is actually going on? The guy is lying. Craterhoof Behemoth is $36. It's not budget. What is he talking about? Okay, sure, it's not super budget. You have to spend some money on it, I guess. Craterhoof Behemoth is gonna be pretty much the only expensive card for this deck tech video. In the description below of this video, you can find a deck list for this deck tech. And Craterhoof Behemoth is still gonna pretty much be the only card that is really expensive, and the rest is just gonna be that cheap stuff. But if you're a veteran competitive EDH player and you want to bring your friends into this format, then this might be a deck you could assemble and borrow to your friends. So all that you really need to showcase for your friend that want to play this is these 3 cards. Here's your commander, here's your win con, cast this, attack with this, fill your graveyard until you find these 2, reanimate Craterhoof Behemoth, attack and win. Literally a deck you grab, shuffle and play. And the rest of the cards inside this deck is basically just going to be support, like Flash of Insight, a flashback card you can cast from your graveyard. This deck is really good at casting cards from your graveyard. For 2 mana, remove X blue cards from your graveyard from the game to look at the top X cards of your library, put one of them into your hand. Another card we can play from the grave is Drown Yard Temple, a land. So for 3 mana, you can move this from your graveyard back into play tapped. We also have a little bit of graveyard interaction and graveyard protection, cross and reclamation. Target player shuffles up to 2 cards from his or her graveyard into his or her library. You could, for example, if someone is trying to exile your Craterhoof Behemoth from your graveyard, you can use this to shuffle it back into your library to protect it, or you can try to get it later. But also, if someone is trying to reanimate a card from their graveyard, you can use this to shuffle the target back into their graveyard and make their spell fizzle. Other players are also playing Reanimator strategies. But we have more flashback interaction. Cabal therapy. Flashback cost, sacrifice a creature. That's easily done when our commander is producing zombie tokens when she attacks. Now, name a non-land card. Then target player reveals their hand and discards all cards with that name. Now, this isn't really secure interaction. We get to look at the player's hand, that's good. And if you have enough skill, if you're good at predicting what they have in their hand, then this could be utilized in a great way. We also have some creature flashback, or well, it's not really creature flashback, it's a nerf. So for 2 mana, you may return this from your graveyard back into play and each player discards a card. This is gonna help out in reaching the critical mass of creatures you might need to win the game with craterhoof behemoth. But also this is some form of interaction, it's a pox effect, each player discards a card. That is affecting us as well, but it is some form of annoying interaction against your opponents. Now, Sidisi's ability isn't a card drawing ability, it's a milling ability, filling your graveyard with cards and producing tokens. But if, let's say, a really high ratio of your cards from your deck can be played from your graveyard, then you're turning Sidisi into a card drawing ability, or well, card producing ability, I might actually say. You're making your deck synergize with your commander. Now we need to talk about a really important part, the critical mass of creatures. So, Sidisi will create a 2/2 black zombie whenever you put a creature card from your library into your graveyard, and craterhoof behemoth will give all of your creatures +X equal to the amount of creatures you control. So therefore, to make sure you get a creature trigger from Sidisi every time she attacks, you need to have a really high creature ratio inside your deck. But I think Rotting Rats is the perfect card for this deck, because this is a creature that you can synergize with your commander, as your commander is putting it into your graveyard, and then you bring it back from your graveyard with its own ability. But the creature ratio inside this deck should be really high, something about 40 or more, and that's crazy. Heavy creature decks run something about 30 creature cards in cEDH, and we're going to go up to 40. However, we're actually going to include a bunch of cards that are creature cards, but are something else as well. Here I have a card that I think is utterly amazing. Nimble Obstructionist, a 3/1 flash flying blue creature for 3 mana. Okay, why are we playing this? We're not playing it for that. We're playing it for the cycling ability to stifle. This is a 3 mana cost stifle and draw a card, and your opponents can't interact with it except with their own stifle. This is not a spell. We also have in sorcery speed evoke 2 mana cost Shriekmaw. This is actually not that good. For 2 mana in sorcery speed, destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. But in the end, we're doing the best we can with the budget we have. Now, Shriekmaw isn't great, but it's not terrible either. I'm gonna end it with, it's functional. It's gonna do the job. We also have a bunch of ramp spells like Sakura Tribe Elder. For 2 mana, that's equal to a rampant growth. We also have some instant speed ramp, or this isn't ramp, this is card draw. Crossun Tusker. For 3 mana, you can cycle this to draw a card, but before you draw a card, search your library for a basic land and put that into your hand. This is also a really big creature if the game goes really long and weird, and if you don't need more mana, but need something big that smashes hard. We also have this thing, which is an upgrade. 4 mana cost instead of 3, but this time you get your basic land into play. We also have this, also a cycle card. Now you can cycle this to tutor for a forest. If you actually shock lands and duels, if you for some reason upgrade this list, this one can actually tutor for shocks and duels. Now you might actually be skeptic about Crossun Tusker, but let me tell you a story. When I played this one in a non-budget deck, I actually ended up hard casting this for 7 mana just for a 6/5, and my opponent, guess what, actually ended up hard casting a Force of Will to counterspell the Crossun Tusker, and both of us agreed that both did the right play in that weird game. Also, I highly recommend the card the Mere Infiltrator. Now we're not using it as a 1/3 unblockable for 2 mana. Like I said, it's a creature, but that's not what we're using it for. We're using it for the 3 mana cost transmute to tutor for a card, for example, Mausoleum Secrets or Animate Dead. Animate Dead is actually on a semi-budget, and it's a good card to reanimate the craterhoof behemoth with. Also, Mausoleum Secret is a good tutor for this deck. It's also on a budget, a lot more cheaper compared to the Demonic Tutor. And this is a deck that could fully utilize this thing, as we're filling our graveyard with a lot of creatures. But we really need to increase our consistency. Our game plan is to find Craterhoof Behemoth after all. There is a budget creature, and this is actually a creature played as a creature. Fierce Empath. 3 mana tutor that will search your library for a creature with converted mana cost 6 or more. This is 8, so Fierce Empath can find this thing for us. So now we basically just need to tutor and find Fierce Empath. We can do that with the Drift of Phantasm, which is also a creature, but that's not what we're using it for. We're using it as a tutor, to tutor for something on CMC 3. We should also include some of the more typical Sultai hate bears, such as Scavenging Ooze, a typical creature that removes graveyards from the game for our opponents. We also have Null Mage Shepherd. This is a creature deck. Null Mage Shepherd is quite an expensive card, but this is a really grindy creature that is quite good at destroying artifacts and enchantment by only tapping 4 creatures. That is a condition this deck is gonna fulfill quite well. Also, this is pretty much out to include just 1 mana to sit there as an interaction against artifacts and enchantment. It's a good card in general. We also have Ulvenwald Tracker. Whenever you have a creature deck and your commander is usually mediocre power and toughness, then Ulvenwald Tracker is quite good. You can sit there with your Ulvenwald Tracker and Sidisi and just fight your opponent's creatures ongoingly as an ongoing spot removal. Also, Notion Thief, extremely strong, shutting down the card drawing capacity for your opponents and actually stealing it. Also, this has flash, so this is instant speed interaction. Now let's look at some grindy creatures. Here we have the Naga Cleric that allows you to play land cards from your graveyard. You're gonna fill your graveyard with a lot of lands, so this is a card Sidisi could utilize quite well. However, I'm not gonna include the Naga Cleric inside my tapped out deck list because it's actually a little bit above budget. But depending on your personal budget, you could actually include it because it's, let's call it semi-expensive. But here I have a card that I think is utterly amazing for this deck. This is an uncommon card. This is a budget card. This is a mini version Sidisi. This is also a card I don't think you know existed. Avenging Druid. 3 mana cost, 1 free green creature. If Avenging Druid damage an opponent, you may reveal cards from your library until you reveal a land card. Put that land into play and put all cards revealed this way into your graveyard. So this is doing the exact same thing Sidis is doing. It's helping us follow through our game plan. It's card draw. Okay, it's not actually card draw, but because our deck is so good at playing from the graveyard, it's turning into card draw. But also the part where you're putting a land into play, it becomes actual ramp, which is something close to card draw. But remember that this is a budget deck, a simple deck anyone can grab and play without the need to learn complex combo lines and packages. And it's not trying to be the best deck in the world, rather a deck for beginners or a deck you assemble and let your friends borrow that you wanna introduce competitive EDH to. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and you wanna support me, consider sharing my videos or even checking out my Patreon page. Also, purchasing cards from the TCG Players website using the affiliate link down below will also help the channel grow. So a big thank you to all of you.